Welcome everybody. Good morning or afternoon, evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name's Damien. I'm a recruiter here at Gartner. Specifically, I recruit for tech sales for large enterprise across Europe. Yes, as Lawrence just said, today we're obviously you're joining us to talk about and learn about the future of enterprise sales and how we harness AI for BD success. And yeah, just to recap, as Laura mentioned there, if you didn't hear, it's interactive this session today, so please submit questions for our expert panelists using the Q&A box in the bottom right hand corner, and we'll get to those later in the webinar. So yeah, thanks for everyone for joining, and I shall now hand you over to my co-host Devin.
Thank you, Damien. My name is Devin Gaffney. I'm a senior sales recruiter in our global business sales for large enterprise, specifically focused on our Gartner for Sales Leaders practice. We have a brief agenda for our call today. First, we will dive into a high-level overview of Gartner and who we are. We will then introduce our panelists and allow them to tell their Gartner stories, followed by roundtable questions and answers, and finally close out our webinar for the day. Let's begin with a quick introduction to Gartner. Gartner is the world's leading business and technology insights company, providing insights, advice, and tools for leaders in IT, finance, HR, customer service, and more. For over 4 decades, Gartner has been at the forefront of helping organizations make informed decisions, drive growth, and stay ahead of emerging trends. With a global presence and a reputation for trusted, data-driven research, Gartner empowers enterprise leaders to navigate complex markets and seize new opportunities. Gartner's growth trajectory has been remarkable. As businesses worldwide embrace digital transformation, the demand for Gartner's expertise continues to soar. For business development executives, this means unparalleled opportunities to engage with top-tier clients, drive impactful solutions, and contribute to companies' expansion. Gartner invests heavily in sales teams, providing cutting-edge tools, including artificial intelligence, to help identify prospects, personalize outreach, and close deals more efficiently. AI is revolutionizing how we analyze markets, predict client needs, and build lasting relationships, positioning Gartner's business development professionals at the forefront of enterprise sales innovation. Finally, let's talk about what makes Gartner a great place to work. Gartner is consistently recognized as a top employer with awards for diversity, culture, and professional growth. Employees benefit from continuous learning, mentorship, and collaborative environment that values innovation and integrity. Gartner's achievements, such as being named to Fortune's World's Most Admired Companies and Forbes America's Best Employers, reflect a commitment to excellence both in business and employee experience. When you join Gartner, you're not just building a career, you're joining a community that celebrates success and supports your growth. Damien, I'll turn it to you.
Thanks, Devin, for that overview and for bringing it to life for everybody there. It's appreciated. So, look, I'm delighted now for you guys to get the opportunity to meet with a select group of Gartner's top performing salespeople, both individual contributors and some of our sales leaders. So they'll do a far better job of introducing themselves than I will. So I'll hand over to Garrett, first of all, to introduce himself, please.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Garrett Butch, and I am a Senior Business Development Director on the Sales Leaders practice. Started Gartner about 10 years ago, and has been part of this practice ever since. My role is a pure hunter. I go out and I look to speak with chief sales officers, heads of sales enablement, sales operations, with organizations that are typically 750 million and above, those with complex sales practices that are looking to really be game changers. In my world, which is what I've been told is the fastest growing practice in Gartner, our world is just to really figure out what's happening on the commercial side. What are the challenges that they're facing? What are the things that are changing that are out of their control, such as tariffs or some of the things that are happening inside the government? And our role is to go out there and help them solve those challenges faster. On the right side of my screen, a lot of the research that we do and what we'll talk about today is AI. So it's often exciting for me to discuss this because it's something that I deal with every day. So as we go through this, I'm excited about giving you an idea of what it looks like to work here and helping you understand some of the technology sides of Gartner.
Everyone. I'm Michael Fairbairn, a conference sales executive here at Gartner. I'm excited to share a little bit about the role and why the conference attendee sales team, what we call CAS, is a great place to kind of situate yourself. So what is conference attendee sales? In short, we drive new attendance for Gartner conferences by connecting executives and their teams with research, experts, networking opportunities, and just experiences tailored to their priorities with our conferences as the vehicle. It's not just about selling tickets. It's about creating those personalized, high-value experiences that help IT leaders solve their biggest challenges. So what makes CAS interesting and unique is the exposure and the variety of the position itself. As a conference sales executive, I sit at the center of several key domains of conversation, whether it's technology or business. But when I'm working with executives, I'm working with people across large and global enterprises. And in the tech role, we span most major IT role domains. So for example, data, infrastructure, cloud, security, AI. You learn a lot about the tech world just by sitting in these conversations. It's a high volume, high impact role that gives you a front row seat. It's kind of the trends shaping the tech world. In my journey at Gartner, I've been in tech for about 2 years, and I joined Gartner for about 1.5 years of that. In that time, I've been fortunate to hit Winner's Circle, earn Eagle Achiever, finished #3 globally in my position last year, and I'm also really passionate about AI. I've led internal trainings and AI tools and best practices, things like that. I just love digging into the topic and transforming the future of work and being in a front row seat for that. So I'm excited to get into the conversation, and I'll hand it over.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Abigail Hawkins, and I'm part of Gartner Digital Markets. Excited to be speaking with you all today. Just to give you a little bit of insight as far as what my journey has been so far at Gartner, I joined in 2021 as an SDR, got promoted to business development manager, as you can see there in 2022, and then eventually advanced on to a business development executive, which is my current role. And to give you an idea of who we are and what Gartner Digital Markets is, we have 4 sites, as you can see listed there: Capterra, GetApp, and Software Advice, and UpCity, all of which comprise of the world's largest B2B software directory, which basically allows buyers to discover and compare software and software vendors to help build their brand, capture demand, and better understand their market. And what I like to compare our ecosystem to is a Yelp or a TripAdvisor, but for B2B software. And for my role specifically, what I'm doing is connecting vendors with high intent buyers through our pay-per-click and pay-per-lead lead generation programs. And I help tailor their campaign strategies to align with their goals and overall drive qualified leads, drive revenue, and of course, accelerate growth for these companies. And this has been really great experience for me, and overall Gartner has provided me with a lot of great growth opportunities. And if you're looking for a fast-paced, supportive environment to grow your career and make an impact, Gartner is definitely a great place to do that. Over to you, Frankie.
Hi, so I am Frankie Mitten, and I am a business development director situated in London in the UK. So good afternoon to everyone that's joining from this region. Similar to the people that have gone before me, business development, so I'm in a pure hunting role here at Gartner. I joined in 2022 as a business development executive, and at the start of this year was promoted to become a director. And in terms of the market that I support, we call it end user technology clients in the large enterprise space. So essentially the audience I'm selling to are CIOs, CTOs, IT directors in non-technology companies. So whether it's manufacturing, it could be retail, automotive, financial services, the internal IT people that are running those teams, those are my audience. And again, it's only companies that are above $1 billion in revenue. So yeah, that's kind of me, where I sit, and what part of the puzzle I make up.
Thank you, Frankie. Good morning and good afternoon. It's good to see everyone here. My name is Corey Pittman. I am a director for global exhibitor sales, specifically within supply chain. And I've been with Gartner for 12 years. I actually started out in 2012 as a research AE, working with our education clients. And some of those clients included the University of Nebraska, Texas Tech, SMU. I also worked with some of the schools in Dallas, specifically Dallas Independent School District, just to name a few. I had a great run. I had a pre-IPO company come knocking at my door, and I thought it was a good opportunity. And I went there for a little under 2 years, but I came back in 2018 to be an individual contributor in global exhibitor sales. And I was promoted in 2020 from an AE to a senior account executive. In 2022, I decided to spend 2 years in our sales learning and development program. And the whole reason why I did that was because I knew I wanted to be in leadership. And what this program does is that it will take 2 to 3 years of your Gartner career and basically invest in you, become a better coach, become a better facilitator. And that's what I did. And I spent 2 years in this program. And that's the whole point of it. They don't want you in for more than 3 years. They want you to go back into the business. And that's what I did. So in January of 2024, I stepped back into the business, and I'm currently leading the North American supply chain sponsorship portfolio. So my roles and responsibility is that I oversee the entire North American supply chain sponsorship portfolio, which includes our symposium, as well as our supply chain planning summit. And in a nutshell, what our team does is that we connect supply chain tech providers with Gartner end user clients under one roof at a Gartner conference. And our number one goal is to help our attendees solve problems, or as Gartner likes to call it, their mission critical priorities, and they need a partner. And that way we are able to enable our sponsors to basically find their very next best client. So it's a little bit about me. Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Corey. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Doug Robertson. I'm a VP similar to Frankie. I oversee our end user portfolio, which is, I won't re-explain that, it's selling to CIOs, et cetera, end users of technology. My division oversees our mid-sized enterprise clients. So conversely to Frankie, that's everything less than $1 billion in annual revenues. A little bit about my journey with Gartner. I've been here for 8 years, but I started off as a business developer in this channel, and I worked my way up through the ranks, staying in the same channel. So I became a business development director, then I became a sales manager, and now a VP, and I've done that all inside the mid-sized enterprise business development channel. It's a big reason of why I came to Gartner. I came to Gartner for career progression. After a 10-year career with a financial services firm prior to Gartner, it's exactly what I found. It's a great place to work. You can really advance your career. They have very well laid out metrics, and if you hit your metrics, you can advance your career at every stage. Thank you. Looking forward to the time here today.
Well, thanks very much, everybody, for your introductions and giving us an overview of your functions and your background at Gartner. So that was really insightful. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm pleased to say that we have already had some pretty good questions coming in from the attendees today. Please do feel free to submit further questions. But the first question we've got here is coming for Corey. So Corey, what's your view on AI? Is it a challenge? Is it an opportunity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I think of AI, I don't think it's either. I think it's an opportunity. And I think that it's an opportunity that comes with some specific challenges. And I think right now where we're at is that the challenge comes with really truly understanding what its capabilities are. And it's not just a shiny new toy or really cool technology that is all over the headlines. And I actually took a look at some Gartner research, and you're familiar with our hype cycles. There's one specifically for AI that was released this year. And if you take a look at that, the majority of AI is really still at the peak of inflated expectations. And what we're saying is that it's going to take about 2 to 3 years to really normalize. So to put that in plain English for those that are not part of the Gartner ecosystem, in other words, it's subject to a ton of hype, over enthusiasm, and really unrealistic expectations. And I think we've seen that. We've had examples of technology like that. Think about when the iPhone first came out. They thought it was the best thing ever, and it was going to solve world peace, right? And then it started to become reality. And so I think right now, the challenge we're seeing is sifting through all of that hype and really understanding what it can really do for sellers and specifically for the enterprise. And for our team, so I've got a team of 7. And to overcome that type of a challenge, we've been trying to not boil the ocean. And our team has been really focusing on 2 specific areas. Number 1 would be executive meeting preparation. And the second part is effective prospecting. And what we have found is that the biggest difference is the time it takes, not just for preparation and outreach, but for quality preparation and outreach. And what used to take us 30 to 45 minutes really now takes about half that time, but we're not losing the quality. We're actually increasing the quality of our outreach in order to get a decision maker response. And so really right now, I think the only true obstacle or challenge I see and that I've experienced with the team is honestly just the too much of reliance on AI and to lose that human touch. I get inbounds from LinkedIn, I get inbounds from email, trying to sell me something, and you can tell it is completely written by AI. And I had an AE who was actually utilizing it too heavily because they were just way too long, and you can see it. And so I think if you take a look at the utilization of AI, the key is for let it do the hard work for you, let's say 70 to 80%, but then leaving that 20% to make sure that it's humanized and that you know it's coming from not from a computer, but from an actual person.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Corey. That's some really thought-provoking points there. Thanks for sharing. The next question we've got here is for Garrett. Garrett, how can you harness AI in a sales role? And also, what things might you need to be aware of or wary of when using AI? Oh, I can't hear you, Garrett. I don't know if it's just me or.
About now, much better.
Yeah, you're good to go. Thank you.
I think to piggyback on what Corey said, AI, when used the right way, can be very effective. It really helps, I can say myself and my team, stand out in conversations. Some of the things we use it for, lead discovery, lead scoring. Our managers use it for conversational intelligence to understand what's happening within our sales calls and how we can be more efficient. Deal analysis, relationship intelligence, cross-sell and upsell, even sometimes a negotiation strategy. And I use it at times even to help write emails and understand what's happening within the companies that I'm looking to pursue. I think that at times we use it as a crutch. It's not a magic bullet for sales. We're still in the infancy of this technology. There's a lot out there. It takes a lot to implement. It takes a lot to do it successfully. I think a lot of people, as I said, use it as a crutch, and AI at times even guesses or makes assumptions. So it doesn't always have the right information, which means that as a seller, you need to really be in lockstep with it to make sure that you're actually looking at what you're producing so that you don't get the LinkedIn or emails that Corey said that are coming in that are AI. The last piece we'll talk about is is the skills to use it. Our research in Gartner for sales leaders shows that only 5% of current sellers have the AI skills to be effective. That's a really small number of people. So for those out there that are maybe more mature like I am in your career and haven't used a whole lot of technology in the past, or if you're even brand new and are new to the AI world, the big suggestion that I have is to really understand the skills you need of how to use AI and then how to effectively use it as you are talking to prospects or clients, depending what side of the fence you fall on in Gartner.
Thanks, Garrett. That's really appreciated. Some great perspective. We've got a question here for Michael. How do you use AI from a technical perspective as a BD within your function?
That's a good one. Okay, so when I'm thinking of using AI from a technical perspective, I think the first thing I think of is making sure I don't fall into the trap of making it, like Garrett and Corey had mentioned, like a do-it-for-me tool, like that magic bullet. I treat it more like a collaborator. And that's really the mindset shift. It's not about outsourcing your thinking. It's really about amplifying what you do best and building workflows that kind of scale your best work. So from a Gartner perspective, we kind of have an advantage here. We're not using AI like the average user at home. We have enterprise-grade protections, governance, the resources, which really changes the way we interact with it. It makes it much safer and more powerful to use. But more than that, I'm sure a lot of us have heard, we know AI is only as effective as the data that you give it. Well, when you're stockpiled with decades of some of the best research and insight in the business, you have a great advantage there to use AI in a really powerful way. So I guess diving into maybe some of the technical weeds, we can get into a bit of prompt engineering. I know personally, I use AI to build what I call an executive playbook, like a set of repeatable, high-impact tasks that I can scale, just thinking like an executive. Corey and Garrett had mentioned things like drafting personalized and relevant outreach that's tailored to your audience, conversation prep for our clients, learning about industry trends, recent news, company initiatives, things like that, that can help me drive conversations that go deeper into the nuance, where I can ask more informed questions rather than staying surface level. And so I'm personally a creative-minded person, so I love using AI for like idea refinement and brainstorming. So for example, you could say something like, give me 10 ways this idea could fail, and then give me 2 adjustments that will help me avoid those pitfalls. A great tool for critiquing and strengthening your ideas. And yeah, I'll give you one more. One of my personal favorites is utilizing dual personas. A lot of us might have heard of like assigning the AI a role, but you can ask it to act between 2 different roles or 2 different personas in one conversation. So me personally, I'm new to the tech world, and I have some ground to make up with some of my acumen, and I have a wedding to pay for. So like, I'm not trying to take shortcuts, but I also want to learn as fast as I can. So I use AI as a dual persona learning tool. So here's an example of how it can look. Just type into your chat. I want you to engage with me in this chat with 2 separate personas. One, you're an expert Gartner IT salesperson that specializes in mapping client pain points to high impact experiences at conferences. But number 2, you're an expert IT and business acumen teacher designed to be helpful at teaching me industry context behind the actions and solutions we're exploring in this conversation. So I guess in that way, I get to learn critical acumen and insight as I'm performing my tasks and doing the research I need to for my conversations. And I know some of us have probably been in Gen AI conversations where it starts to lose the plot towards the end, kind of straying from those intended goals. For me, the key really is learning when to give Gen AI context and how to move towards short back and forth conversations and using those sales best practices of influence so you can move from those long unstructured mega prompts into integrated workflows. And then I'll wrap it up here with just by saying, in your executive playbook, when you find things that work, a great email, a strong recap, save those things and feed it back to future chats. That reinforcement helps the AI stay aligned to your goals. So it's one of the first technologies that feels almost human, even though it isn't. So I guess being technical does mean having that industry knowledge, and it means being intuitive, but it also means knowing when to be influential and knowing when to reinforce and guide the conversation. And so I guess to wrap it up here, being technical means being clear and structured, but also creative and collaborative, and really leaning into, I guess, the human aspect of our best practices and what Gartner really equips us to do. So it's a great tool for that, and I guess that's, to me, what makes it fun.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Mark. I mean, that's some really great insights there. I was learning a lot myself listening to you there, so I'm sure that was insightful for everybody else as well, so I appreciate it. Frankie, if I can come to you for the next question, how has AI helped you be more efficient or more productive in your role within GTS Large Enterprise?
Yeah, sure. So I'll maybe start by prefacing that I'm not the most technical person in the world. I think, yeah, Michael could definitely show me a thing or two. But the good thing about AI and the way we use it is super simple and super easy to use, essentially to help save time and be more efficient. And I think kind of in the way that Corey mentioned earlier, I use it in two ways predominantly, which is preparing for meetings and actually prospecting. So from a preparing perspective, when I have a meeting coming up with a new C-level stakeholder in a company I've never spoken to before, I have a ready-made prompt which I'll put straight into, Copilot, which will then tell me, exactly what the company's corporate objectives are, and also hypothesize what their technology priorities might be. Again, it's not always 100% accurate, or the information might not be out there in company reports or news articles, but if there is some technology transformation that's going on, or they're looking for a new ERP system or something like that, which would have taken me a long time to research and find, it's brought to my attention very quickly, and then I can have materials prepared that if in that case that is the thing they're focused on, I'm prepared to show them something that's going to be very relevant very quickly, and is going to capture their interest and make them much more engaged and want to engage with me going forward as well. So that's the kind of preparation part. And then in terms of prospecting, essentially the way that we operate in the business unit that I'm in is that a lot of our prospecting is centered around the events that we run. I think with those have already been mentioned on the calls, but we'll often use those as kind of a hook to get people interested to hear more about the wider Gartner service, which means that a lot of our email campaigns are often kind of centered around the same sort of structure, but obviously will be relevant to whatever event or topic or audience is coming up next. So myself and my team have been able to use generative AI to essentially take some of those successful email campaigns and almost replicate but adapt for whatever audience that might be, for whatever new conference that might be, with the topics that are in mind and what that group of people are now going to want to see. Again, not everything's perfect. We make sure we review it and that it is really relevant and it doesn't sound like Gen AI wrote it. I think someone mentioned earlier, because it can be quite obvious. But the amount of time saved to get there with something that's very concise, very to the point, and has saved me a lot of time researching, has been massively valuable for me and has helped me to be much more efficient.
Brilliant. Thanks, Frankie. So it certainly sounds like it's making a difference for you in your world, which is interesting to hear. Abigail, if I could put the same question to you, really, I guess, how, from a GDM perspective, how is it helping you? How are you utilizing it?
Yeah, so I definitely have some similar use cases with, what Frankie had mentioned and Michael as well. So I would say for sure it's helped me a lot in the role and saved me a ton of time, especially with opportunity prioritization. So just giving me a second opinion just to make sure that a deal is going to be worthwhile. And of course, that I'm driving momentum along the deal cycle. And then just keeping me on top of trends, making sure that I'm aware of any competitive shifts that have happened or evolving market dynamics. Additionally, it really does help me engage strategically at scale. So again, similar to what Michael and Frankie said, just making sure that I'm adapting my messaging to different personas, industries that I'm talking to, and in addition to that, being aware of what deal stage that we're currently in. And then really it helps me just make sure that I'm surfacing relevant client, competitor, and market insights in addition to that. And I really feel like it's helped me strengthen those conversations and guide that overall strategy. And definitely has helped on the communication and content side of things. So just making sure that I'm as efficient as possible when I'm communicating with clients, making sure that my messaging is relevant, updating the CRM. Definitely, I'm sure everybody can attest to that being a huge time saver. So overall, again, just to reiterate, just big time saver for me. Really engaging strategically at scale has been a game changer. And then just alleviating those manual repetitive tasks have been super helpful.
Thanks for sharing, Abigail. That's much appreciated. Doug, if we could come to you next for the question, from a GTS MSE perspective, how do you and your teams utilize AI for greater BD success?
Yes, I think it's a lot of what Frankie said earlier on the efficiency side, but like the pre-call preparation, coming to the call with a hypothesis, the amount of time that it used to take to do that. I shared like in my intro slide, I started out as a business developer with Gartner 8 years ago. I used to do all of those things before a call. I would read through a 10K, look at the prospects LinkedIn. I would go and talk to our account managers to understand what similar clients we're working on. It would take me hours. Now we're able to leverage all of those things with AI and become much more efficient. But the purpose or the importance of that pre-call preparation and the hypothesis generation is your prospects are expecting that from you. If you come to a call without doing that level of preparation, you're being disqualified as a seller. So I think that's what's helping us is to distinguish ourselves and show up to the call, demonstrating credibility, but also getting our prospects leaning into us and wanting to share more with us because they trust us as sellers. In addition to the preparation piece, there's a few things that my region, I have 30 sellers that report into me directly. There's a few things that we are doing after every call with AI, and we do a post-call analysis. So we use conversational intelligence tools so we can leverage call transcripts, and we develop prompts to help us analyze gaps in our deals, missteps in our sales process, and also identify prospect objections. The other thing too with Gartner is we have a tremendous library of resources. So we have especially on the Gartner for technology sales side, we have over 200,000 research notes that our 2,500 experts have produced. Those are all available to our clients in our research portal to demonstrate that we have the answers that our prospective clients are looking for. We have to align the proper resource to our prospect to show them that we have the answers to their questions. And it's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack at times when you're looking to demonstrate those resources. And the beauty that Gartner has, we've developed our own internal AI tools that sit on top of our research. Now our sellers have been able to leverage that tool to find those resources that are best aligned to our prospects and show them a meaningful engagement. The last piece I'll share is on the practice part. As a seller, you have to practice and you have to role play You have to go through your talk tracks. You have to refine the things that you want to say in a live call. My region specifically, we've actually piloted an AI role play system. So it's an AI-driven role play bot that we can upload scenarios into, and then the AI will actually play the prospect, and we can prepare our talk tracks, we can deliver our value proposition, and we can actually get a score, and we can see how our sellers are performing, against our stated criteria and our stated objectives. And it allows us to give them very prescriptive coaching on the things that they're doing well in their areas of opportunity.
Brilliant. Thanks, Doug. I think so. We've heard from all 6 panelists so far, and I think what we can see already, there's irrespective of what business unit you're in or what part of Gartner's sales business you're working in, AI is definitely playing a key role in harnessing that success. So that's great to hear. So a few more questions. We've got one here that we'll ask Garrett to answer, which is, what's your view on the concern that AI will take over the BD function?
That's a good one. I think a lot of people have that fear that AI is going to take over, and it's kind of that futuristic. They're going to take over the world, but the reality is it's not. As I think I mentioned before, Gartner for Sales Leaders does a ton of research on what's happening in the world of sales, and the reality is it's really just going to augment some of the things that you're already doing. And let me take a step back. This is a piece of research I talk about all the time with chief sales officers, is that 75% of B2B buyers prefer a rep-free experience. I think we're all that way a little bit. Something comes in, we go to homedepot.com, it comes through our social media, we just want to make that purchase. But so often that purchases we have regret, even as individuals, but from the business world, about 43% of buyers have buyer regret because they're not interacting with humans. So the reality is that all technology, including AI, is going to be just a teammate for us. It's not going to replace us per se as people, but it's going to replace some of the things we do. Replace data entry, sending follow-up emails, scheduling meetings. It'll help researching prospects, qualifying leads, managing your accounts. For some industries, it helps generate RFP responses, which saves an enormous amount of time. Analyze data, customer behavior, even sales performance, see how we're doing. The reality is that there still needs to be a human touch, and anything and everything that we do with AI, you need to be cognizant of the fact that it's a piece of technology and it's a tool. It can't be something that is going to replace what you do every day. It's going to have a really tough time in having those conversations and getting that rapport with someone as a sales rep. So in short, no, it's not going to replace us. It's going to help us, but it's going to also help us be a heck of a lot more productive. And for those of us that are managers on here, it's going to help our sales teams do a lot more growth-facing activities instead of doing things internally that may have taken us, as some people mentioned, hours or even days in the past.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Great answer. Something I hear as a sales recruiter, I mean, I speak to people about potentially working with Gartner, every day, and something that comes up quite often and that we've had come in as well is the viewpoint that AI can provide the insights instead. Like, how are Gartner going to tackle that challenge? So maybe Corey, I could ask you to add some insights onto this one. Nice, easy one for you.
Yeah, nice and easy one. I appreciate that, Dave, and thank you for the softball. Yeah, it's a really good question. And what was interesting is that yesterday I was on LinkedIn, and one of our analysts posted a data point on where ChatGPT, Grok, and other AI get their sources from. It's on LinkedIn. If you go find it somewhere, you can see it. Do you know what the number one source of where they got all their information was? 40% comes from Reddit. And then all the way down, it lists all the other sources. I thought the most interesting was 4% comes from homedepot.com. So I think when you take a look at your insights, it's where are you getting that information from? I think we've all been in a group of friends and we start talking about a topic, and you got that one friend who's very loud, but is not very knowledgeable, but likes to be opinionated. And you just like, I don't know if that's really true or not, right? So I think when it comes to us as sellers, using it from an initial touch point to gain insights quickly, I think is great. As you all know, read the news, we have Ask Gartner now that has been released. And what that does is that it pulls the sources directly from Gartner content, from our specific research. And so we're not getting opinions about a vendor that our end user is looking for from their website, because obviously there's a little bit of a bias there, right? It's pulling that source from a reputable area where they know it can be trusted. So I think it's a fair question, but I think when you take a look at where technology is in the hype cycle, with AI being at the peak, there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of fear mongering. There's a lot of, it can do all these great things. But then once we as humans start to really analyze the data and start getting more experience, reality will seep in. At the end of the day, like my dad used to say, garbage in, garbage out. And I think when we're looking at clients who are looking at a very large enterprise, multi-million-dollar solution, I don't think they're going to go to Reddit to find what that opinion should be or what the answers are going to be. So I think as sellers, yes, we definitely utilize the tool. Within Gartner, it's more protected within our pool of information, so we know where that sources are coming from. But outside that environment, yes, it's a great tool. But again, you have to consider the source.
Yeah, great point. Thank you very much. So next question we'll ask Frankie to handle. Do you think that AI in future sales practices will eliminate or limit the opportunities for sales and marketing jobs?
Short answer is no. And I guess for a couple of reasons, some of which build off what Garrett says around, that AI is never going to replace the need for a human. And some of the people watching might be experienced sellers and they'll know, but for those who aren't and maybe haven't gone into sales before, people buy from people, and all of sales is about building relationship and rapport and helping understand the value of something, which we can do much quicker and maybe more effectively and more concisely with technology like AI, but absolutely does not replace the need for someone to be at the forefront, build that relationship and push a sale through where it needs to be. And I think maybe another point to add, as I kind of mentioned, I support end user companies, which are organizations that are not technology companies. And so the scenario I'm currently in and hear from a lot of my prospects is that CEOs, CFOs, people that are not in the technology space, hear the hype of AI, hear it from their other CEO peers, and are now telling their CIOs, CTOs, go and do some AI. We need to do AI, but they don't have experience in AI because it's brand new, and they need support in actually using it in the right places so that they're going to get, return from investment essentially. And that is really where we're helping in a massive way. So if anything, because of AI and the technology and the rate of change that it's going through, I'd say we're actually getting more demand, and there's a further need for Gartner in that space in particular, because people need to do something with AI but don't know how to do it. And obviously Gartner is very well positioned to help guide and advise people and steer them in the right direction. So
Fantastic, thank you. Corey, as you answered the last one so well, I'll throw the next one to you if that's okay. And as Frankie just touched on there, in terms of the personalized approach and the kind of C-level piece, somebody's asked here, like, how are some of the effective ways, or what are some of the effective ways that you've seen sales teams use AI to personalize outreach at that C-level without losing that sort of personal human touch?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a few years back, there was a technology provider, sales technology provider, that put out some research when I was an individual contributor. And we actually had a team meeting to discuss this. And what the context was how much customization and personalization do you really need to do on a prospecting email to get the most return, right? Is it, you got to 100% customize it, 80% personalized? What's that number? And what they found was the highest rate of return of the amount that you have to personalize and customize a prospecting email is 20%. Anything over 20%, the return on effort is just not there. You're just spending more time than what is needed. So going back to your initial question, right? So going back to what we talked about, the 80-20 rule respectively, if that Gen AI can use that 80% to go out and find an executive level problem, right, that they're trying to solve, whether that is through that LinkedIn, whether it's using Copilot to take a look at their 10Ks, as Doug was talking about, and pull that information together, it's done about 80% of the work, hasn't it? And then the key is to go in and then make sure that is no longer than one thumb scroll, right? That's the rule of thumb, pun intended, that you don't want to make sure it's long enough where it's more than one thumb scroll. I think leaving that 20% to ensure that is readable, it's easy, it's bullet pointed, and it's concise and to the point. And I think using those specific data points, whether it's market expansion, whereas they have an investment of capital that they're looking to use to go to market, they're trying to dominate a vertical, the AI, they can go find that for you, because instead of Googling, we're basically using AI. It's the same function, right? If you think about it. It's just easier, faster, quicker, smarter. And then leaving that 20% to then make sure that we have that human touch. Maybe we move this from the second sentence up here. Maybe we need to eliminate that because it's a bit redundant. That's what our team has been doing. At the end of the day, it is still saving time. It is a higher quality outreach, but if we can just roughly 80% of it on the outreach and leave that 20% to customize, personalize with an executive level reason to have a conversation, we've seen a lot of success with that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Doug, I'll come to you with this next one, if that's okay. Somebody's asked us, as someone exploring a career in business development at Gartner, I'm curious how the company supports new team members in learning to use AI tools effectively, especially for those that may not have a strong tech background. And what does the onboarding or upskilling process look like?
Well, I certainly didn't have a strong technology background when I started with Gartner. I spent 10 years in financial services before Gartner. But I think I'll draw your attention back to when Corey was providing his introductions about his roles that he's worked in through Gartner. He mentioned a period of time where he spent 2 to 3 years with our sales learning and development team. And when you think about what that sales learning and development team is, it's a team of salespeople who actually come to teach our new salespeople. And that team has done just a fantastic job over the last 6 months to 12 months in teaching our sellers, whether tenured or brand new, how to leverage these tools. They put on fantastic workshops. And the great part about these teams is they know the job that we're doing, because you're never a former salesperson, right? When you go into this teaching role, but they're former salespeople coming into this teaching role, so they understand what you're trying to accomplish with these tools. So learning from salespeople and how to leverage this technology has been paramount. And then, of course, like at our region levels. So, for example, for my region, I do a monthly region meeting with my region, and we do reinforcement. So we'll go through and we'll do role plays, case studies. We'll listen to live calls from sellers. And those things will just show like the practical application of what they've learned. That way other sellers can see the benefit.
Thank you very much for that. Right, one more question here. We'll come to Michael as our designated technical expert on AI. This person's asking, they're a London-based graduate. I'm wondering if you were in their position and you had the chance to start your career path again, what would you do differently?
Great question. And to the person that asked that question, I've only been in tech for 2 years, but beforehand I was a classical musician and a teacher. So with that, I kind of feel like I'm about 2 years stepping into those shoes. So it's very doable. What I think about, especially in the age of AI, as a seller, I really want to focus on digging into the sales skills that are universal. Things like storytelling and compelling messaging, asking informed questions in conversations. And I think in the age of AI, building connections, those professional connections are going to start to be valued much more as we progress. Learning how to translate and simplify technical information to executive audiences, that is going to be a gold mine in this age, I think. And then I can leave you with, I really try and lean into, maybe this the teacher coming out in me, but I try and lean into being the adult in the room. So I'm reminded of like the conductor in the orchestra as a classical musician. And so that's the seat you really need to start taking when you're learning how to use AI. You will be the most informed on how to build compelling messaging for your clients. And I'm sure we've all been there for AI sometimes tries to drive you to really strange conclusions. So just lean into being the adult in the room and always try and tie what you're doing with technology or with your storytelling. Always try and tie that to either something that you're doing to help your workflow or something you're doing to um, provide value for your clients. So for me, when I started, the first thing I was trying to do, making sure I'm not just doing work for work's sake, I would start with a simple framework of how to build out, make sure I'm tying these to real world results. And that's to start any sentence with to increase, to decrease, or to maintain. It's that simple. Am I increasing the quality of my output? Yes. Okay. Am I decreasing the time it takes to get there? Great. Fantastic. Increasing the quality of the information I'm providing? Well, that's something I need to make sure that as the conductor of the orchestra, the person who's the adult in the room, I'm making sure that I'm cross-checking my work and making sure that it's high quality for both myself and my clients.
Superb. Thank you very much. And one more question here, and we'll come to Garrett with this one. Using AI tools or not, have you had an experience where you shared an insight or a predicted challenge to a client that was just way off? How did you handle it with honesty and integrity and continue the discussion in a positive way? Oh, we lost your sound again, I think.
And me and my mute button here. Sorry about that.
There you go.
I think the short answer is yes. The part of it, to go back to what Gartner does and how we do it, we spend an enormous amount of time, especially in the business development role, researching the people that we're meeting with. So, we go off and whether we're using AI or not, we're trying to find the data that we can use in order to have an intelligent conversation, because our first calls are typically going to be fact-finding missions to start with anyway. We need to gather as much data as we can to help us figure out how we're going to help them. So we rarely go into a situation where we're giving them insight or data, but we do make assumptions and have hypotheses, and they're off. But we also preface that in the conversation that this is what we researched, this is what we found. What might be in an annual report or a quarterly report is what they're putting out to the street. But when you peel back the onion, there's a lot more layers of things that are happening. So going into it, letting them know you've done the research and then being able to point out that, this is what you found. You typically diffuse the prospect anyway, but if it does come to the point where they're saying, hey, that's way off, I think the next really question is ask them more, ask them why, ask them what's changed, ask them what they're seeing with inside their organization. And they're typically going to respond, and they appreciate the fact that you put in the time and effort. And that's part of the training and development that we have is going out and learning something and being curious instead of just making a point, because that's kind of what Gartner does. So we all make mistakes. I've been married 25 years. I've made a lot of wrong assumptions in that time. So that easily spills over into a sales role, but in the end, it always seems to come out okay.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll have time probably for one more question, which I'll come back to Corey with, if that's okay. So around sort of growth at Gartner, why would, in your opinion, why would someone want to build a career at Gartner?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And so I think the key word in that question, Damien, is career. I think for those that are looking for a job, this isn't for you, to be honest, because one of the things that Gartner prides itself is hiring on traits. It prides itself on never stop learning, right? You always want to learn, no limits mindset. And these are things that we can't teach, right? You got to have that ingrained traits in order to be successful from here. So if you want a career and if you want a journey that will be challenging and you will be around some very, very smart people, whenever I get to a meeting, I'm always reminded that I am not the smartest person in this room. There is somebody else that is way smarter than me, and it elevates me, right? This is what's fun. Waking up every morning knowing that there's going to be a new challenge, I'm going to learn something new because that's the core of who we are. We are a research and advisory firm. And we provide insights to our clients in order for them to achieve their mission critical priorities. If you want to be part of that and make a huge influence in people's lives as well as organizations, this is for you. I think the second part of that is this, is with Gartner, it's not an area where you just come and you just stay in one role and that's what you do for the next 10, 15 years. There's a lot of people here on this panel that have started out as an individual contributor, have moved around, moved up, and is now an area vice president, right? Or could be a managing vice president, and not this panel, but there's some examples out there. And if that's where you want to have that mindset of making an impact and never getting stale in your position, this is the opportunity. My last closing thought was this, as Doug mentioned, taking 2 years that I did at Sales Learning Development, where Gartner is saying, hey, I'm going to pay you a base salary to get better and to invest in you in order to prepare you for leadership. So we know that's going to be a bigger impact when you return to business. There's a lot of companies that will do that at all. Now, granted, we'll be delivering value with training our new hires as well as providing curriculum for our veteran sellers. But there's not an organization that is willing to do something like that. I'm very proud of that in my journey. And honestly, it has set me up for success in this role as we speak right now. So I think you have to look at a career in Gartner from a long-term lens. The old saying is you got to see the forest through the trees. And I think as long as you have that long trajectory, this is the place to be. As long as you want to be challenged, never comfortable, and want to make a massive contribution to your clients, this is a great place to be.
Thank you, Corey. Well said. In summary, Gartner is shaping the future of enterprise sales by harnessing artificial intelligence and empowering business development executives to achieve new heights. Whether you're looking to innovate, grow, or simply love where you work, Gartner offers the platform and support to help you succeed. On behalf of my co-host Damien and myself, thank you, Lauren, for helping us navigate our call today. And a huge thank you to all of our panelists and our audience for your time, your questions today. Appreciate you joining us. If you have any questions or would like to know more about an opportunity at Gartner, please feel free to reach out directly. And also, please check out our careers webpage, jobs.gartner.com. Thank you, everyone, so very much. Have a great day, evening. We hope to hear from you all soon.